Hello guys, I'm Grawshellar and welcome to another deck list in which today we're gonna be seeing the deck of SAKAZUKI from OP05. So let's go and take a look. Like we're starting with SAKAZUKI leader card. Again, this deck is super difficult to play efficiently because you're gonna be needing to be good at math, and yeah, like if you play this correctly, you can control the table so easy. And this deck has the peculiarity of being able to replenish your hand quite easily, so it's quite decent in that regard, right? And then you have a lot of opportunities to controlling the board, the table, right? Because you can control all the cards of your opponent, and you have a lot of good plays here. But let's start with the leader, SAKAZUKI, 4 lives. It's a bicolor deck, 5k, the same as almost all of the leaders, right? But then you have the activate main. Once per turn you can discard 1 card from your hand, then draw 1 card. That's really good because you can filter your hand, right? Or even go for some plays that require you to play cards from your trash, so you can strategically, right, discard those cards during this ability, then drawing something like drawing counters or something that might be useful for those turns. Then you drop to the trash the cards that you're gonna be playing from the trash, because you're gonna be having cards that effectively do so. So it's really good because every turn you can perform this, and that's really good for this deck. Then when attacking, it's gonna give up to one of your opponent's characters a cost -1, which again, it's really clutch. I will explain later, but you're gonna have a lot of opportunities to lower the cost of your opponent's characters, and then you're gonna have a couple removals that are gonna be super strong, and then you're gonna have a lot of presence on the field that's gonna be really difficult to get rid of. So again, if you play this properly, this control deck is nuts. Okay, so we start with our first card here. It's gonna be 2 copies of Hina, blue of OP5, because there's obviously more Hinas in One Piece at this point. But yeah, this card, like you can play more copies. I feel like 2 is decent. You can search this card, like you can search like 90 or 80% of this deck with the searcher, because almost all the cards are going to be navy. So that's going to be easy for you guys to search. There's going to be really few scenarios in which you're not gonna, like not gonna fail a search, right? That easily or that often. So this card is really decent to draw 1 card, right? Like 1 extra card is gonna be for 3, a 4k. Like if you give it 1 Dawn, it's already fighting for 5k, which is good to annoy and give pressure. And then the on play, if you have 5 or less cards on your hand, you draw 1 card. So you effectively want this to have more ability to draw more cards, right? Because these decks can be really tough if you don't draw, and you're gonna have a lot of cards that help you draw cards. So having that extra draw on a cost 3 is really huge. Also, it has 1,000 counters, so it's really good to have. You can look for this card, so it's a good idea to have at least a couple. Okay, Borsalino OP5. This card is really good. At the very least, it's really decent to have in this deck. You can search for it as it's an AV card. For 7, it's gonna be an 8k. With the on play, you play up to 1 character with a cost 4 or lower to the bottom of its owner's deck. And that's gonna be super huge because with the leader, it's already a cost 5. And if you play some cards like, I don't know, Ice Age or something, you can put a cost 10 to the bottom of the owner's deck, which is gonna be nuts. Like you can remove any card with this and have an 8k on the table, right? Because you're gonna have a lot of cards that lower the cost, like a lot of cards, and then you're gonna be having this really huge removal that is also gonna have like 3 extra dawns, right? Because it's only 7 cost, which is huge, and you can search for it. It's really good. 3 copies of this at the very least. Some people might play 4, but I don't want to have excessive cards with no counter. I don't know, like 3 copies is good just because of the numbers. You can, guys, like make up the numbers that you like, right? And with this kind of decks, like you can adjust the numbers. And then I'd like to have at the very least 1 copy of Kaido secret from OP5. Like you can have 2. It's a card that it's just not gonna be searchable, but I don't think that this card is diminishing in this deck. Like I think it's really good because yeah, it's 10 dons, but it's a 12k power, and then the on play is really strong because by the time you're gonna play this, you can put the on play on effect, which is if your opponent has 3 or less life cards, you draw 4 cards. Like that's huge. Like the ability of drawing 4 cards if you're in a pinch in which you're gonna effectively waste the turn because you have no better plays. At the very least, you're gonna draw 4 cards and then have counters on hand and stuff like that, right? And then you have a 12k on the table. So if you can survive that turn, this card is really huge to play because you're gonna have 4 extra cards. Okay, Kusan, super rare from OP2. Like, I don't like this card too much to put more than 2 copies. Because the only good thing about this card is that you have the on play, you draw 1 card. Because when attacking, you reduce 4 the cost of a character. Is really huge for any black deck. The only bad thing is that it's when attacking, and normally this card don't survive that much, or you just use it once. So it's a card that doesn't have counter, so I don't like having far too many cards without counter on a deck. So for 2 copies of this is really good. You can maybe put 3. I don't know. I feel like 2 copies is okay because the ability of drawing 1 extra card is really nice. Okay, Tsuru, that's gonna be 1 of our 2k counters, 4 copies of that. Without a doubt, you might be needing to use the on play, but that's gonna be in a really tight spot because you're gonna have so many cards to lower the cost of characters. But again, that's a 2k counter that's searchable, so 4 copies. Then Borsalino from OP2. I know this card is so expensive, right? Because it's OP2, and those cards have been racking up on price quite a bit, but I feel like this card is so good. Like I would put 4 copies. You can put like maybe 3, 2 minimum, I would say, but 3 to 4 copies, it's the way to go with this card. I feel like this card is so strong. Like it's a blocker for 4, it's a 5k, and when defending, right, in your opponent's turn, it's gonna be a 6k. It also has like 1000 counter. Like there's nothing bad going on with this card to not put like 4 copies on deck, right? Then we have brand new, that's gonna be your searcher for the deck. It's gonna search for navy cards, which again, it's like the vast majority of your deck. It's gonna be that. It's 2 cost, which kinda sucks, right? Because most searchers are 1 and they search for 4 to 5. This only looks for the top 3 cards of your deck, and then you trash the rest. But again, black would be so freaking OP if you had a 1 cost searcher, right? So that's kind of okay. Also, you can trash cards, so you can make more plays, so it's really good. I will explain later when we reach those cards in which you play cards from your trash, right? But you can do strategic card thrashes with this and your leader, and you will be seeing why in a bit. Okay, Sabo, 2 cards. I feel like this is also one of the best blockers of the black decks. Like for 5, it's a 6k blocker. Then you play it. None of your characters cannot be KO'd by any card effects until the start of your next turn. And then you draw 2 cards, you trash 2 cards. Again, the ability to trash the cards that you want to trash, and the ability to filter your hand and draw more cards is huge for any deck, and this deck has a lot of that. But again, 2 copies of this at the very least because this card is really, really good. Okay, Moncherry. We are reaching those cards in which you are gonna have plays, okay, from your trash. These 2 copies is okay. Just to adjust the numbers, you cannot look for this card with a searcher, so that's why. Okay, 2 copies of this for 1 cost. Like it's a 0 power card, and for 1 cost you are gonna activate the main with another don, so you need 2 dons to play this. You rest this character, then you return 2 cards from your trash to the bottom of your deck in any order. You can do any card that you want to do, and then you return 1 cost 3 to 5 black character card from your trash to your hand. Now, all your characters, all your black characters are gonna be 3 to 5 at the very least. Okay, they're 2 to 5 cost or 1 to 5 cost, but all your big characters from the black color is gonna be between 3 to 5, right? Because you have like Sabo, Kusan, Borsalino, and a couple more cards that are gonna be 4 cost. So you can recover any card, right? So this is a really sick combo because for 2 dons, you are gonna recover one specific card that you want from your trash, and in many cases, it's gonna be either one of the blockers that are really good or the next 2 cards that we're gonna be seeing, right? For example, Rebecca, you are gonna have 4 copies of this card. It's a 4 cost. You can look for it with Mancherry from your trash, so you can recover this card, for example. And yeah, this card is also really interesting because it's a 4 cost, 0 attack blocker, but the on play is the really good thing because you can return up to 1 black character other than this card with a cost from 3 to 7 from the trash to your hand, and then you play 1 cost 3 or less black character from your hand to the field rested. So that means you have quite a bit of plays with this card. That's why this deck is difficult to play, because it's difficult to understand, but once you understand the flow of which cards you want to play, like, you can get really sick plays, right? Because with this you can play like 3 cost characters that have other on play effects to lower the cost of characters or to do other things, right? So you want to trash this kind of cards, like cost 3 characters, you can trash them because you can play them with this card for free. So that means that any effect that trashes cards from your hand and then you draw cards is like drawing for free cards, because you're gonna play those that you trash with this kind of cards for free, or you're gonna recover them. So that's why these cards are really key to this deck, and these are what makes the deck really difficult to play. In my opinion, this is probably the most difficult deck to play right now, right? But if you play it effectively, it's super huge. Okay, we have 4 copies of Rob Lucci. Again, this is one of those cards that you have to prepare a little bit, right? For 4 is a 6k, which already is really good. This card cannot be searched because it's not Navy, but it's such a key point to this deck because you play 3 cards from your trash to the bottom of your deck in any order, so you're gonna be losing those from your trash. Take note of that, you will not be able to play them from the trash or recover them, right, with other cards. But then you KO up to 1 of your opponent's characters with a cost of 2 or less, and another one with cost 1 or less. So if you can reduce the cost of characters with other cards, like you can KO 2 opponent cards, and that's really huge because you can probably KO like a cost 3 and a cost 7 or stuff like that, because you're gonna have low cost cards that help you reduce a lot the cost of your opponent's cards. So that's why this card is huge, and you can recover it from your trash with both Mancherry and Rebecca. And again, with Rebecca, it's not the same card that it doesn't have to be the same card that you recover from your trash, the one you play. You can probably recover this card, right, and then play a cost 3 or a cost 2. Maybe you play a brand new, or maybe you play like a cost 3 Hina that this deck has. But you recover this card from the trash. You can play this card so many times. And it's gonna be a 6k on the table. The on-play is super annoying for your rival because you're gonna be destroying low-cost characters like super easily. Like all the blockers is gonna be going away, and then you can replay this card a lot of times thanks to Rebecca. Like this deck can have you recover really good cards like really efficiently. So really good. That's why we have 4 copies of Rebecca and Rob Lucci. Like in this deck, they are super good. Then we have 4 copies of Tashigi. Again, 2k blocker. You are probably not gonna be seeing more play unless necessary, but I don't think it's necessary for this deck. It's just that you have those 2k counters. And then we move to the cost 3 Hina from this the starter deck 6. This is one of those cards that you want to play with Rebecca, right, from the trash, alongside brand new, right? Or, I don't know, some other cards, but a cost 3, like that's gonna be huge because you're gonna play for free a 5k that on play it gives your opponent's characters -4. Now you're starting to see the combo, right? Like you play Rebecca, you have prior to that trash this card, then this card enters for free because you can draw it from the trash, you play it, and then you have a blocker, you have a 5k on the table, and you have reduced for the cost of a character, all of that for 4 dons, and then you play something to control that card that you have reduced the cost, and then you are good because you have done such a solid combo. That's why 4 copies of this card is an amazing combo. Okay, now we move to the events. These are gonna be also really key, right, to get rid of cards alongside with Borsalino, Blue, and Rob Lucci, because you're gonna have like 3 removals overall on this deck. You can have other cards that also remove right from the field, because again, you can change cards on these decks, you can adjust the numbers. It's just my personal preference, and you can put whatever works for you. But 4 copies of Hound Blaze. This card can be looked for, like all the events can be looked for, right, with brand new. And then we have this card for 2 done, up to your leaders or characters gain 3k power this turn, which is already really good. And then you place a character with a 2 or less cost on the bottom of its owner's deck. Now, if you have reduced the cost of anything with any of the cards, you're gonna be placing like a cost 6, a cost 7, things like that on the bottom of your owner's deck with a 2 cost, and then one of your characters or leaders gain 3k. So this card is really, really good. It's a main effect card, so you're gonna be playing on your turn. It's not like it's a counter or anything, and it's really huge. Like this event is one of the best events that you're gonna have on this deck. Then I put 2 copies of Ice Age. Like most people probably don't play this card right from OP2, but I feel like it's really strong on this deck, at least to have a couple of these, maybe not many, but a couple of these cards can make a huge difference, because for 1 done, you reduce one of your opponent's characters cost -5. Then, Borsalino, Blue, for 7, it reduced, like, it not reduced, it gets rid of a 4 cost card, right? Like it puts in the bottom deck. With this, for 8 dons total, you remove a 9 cost, and attacking with your leader make it a 10 cost. That's why this card is so good to remove really, really, really high cost characters from the field, because you can put this and I don't know, Hound Blaze, then you are like getting rid of a 7 cost with Rob Lucci, then you are going to have a 7 or a 2, like a 7 and 1 or 2 or 6 removed from the field, things like that. Like -5 for 1 done is really huge for this deck. You have a lot of opportunities to get rid of characters. So that's why at the very least 2 copies, I feel like this card is really, really good for this deck. Okay, Great Eruption. This card is really sick, and you're not going to be using the trigger. It's just because for 1 done, you draw 1 card. That already is really good, but then you give -2 to a character. Again, any card that reduces the cost of characters for really low done cost is going to be super huge, because you're going to have so many cards to like remove the cards from play by putting them in the bottom deck or KOing them, right? Because you don't have many removals, but the removals you have are really efficient because of these cards. So 4 copies of these, just because of the ability to draw that 1 extra card, because I feel like the black deck before OP5, like it really had troubles to draw cards, right? But this deck has so many cards that help you draw cards, refresh your hand, stuff like that. So that's why this is probably one of the most OP black decks that I have ever seen. Okay guys, thank you for watching. I hope you like these deck lists. I know it's a little bit late into the meta, but again, I wanted to do this because I want to continue making them. I didn't know if I was gonna be doing them, right? Because I've left the play for some time. But then I thought that I will be continuing doing them, and then OP6 I will obviously be doing these videos faster, like at the release. Probably I will be preparing those, right, to see what's gonna be playing, why, and I will be yeah, studying some decks just to make those videos really faster than these have been made, and to put them like at the beginning of the release, right? But again, if you like the content, subscribe to the channel, help the channel grow with those numbers, click the like button, yeah, and give me your opinion on the comment section. What do you what are your thoughts on this deck? Do you like playing right now OP5 as it is? Because the cost of cards and the reduced material, like the reduced material, like there's nothing out there, right? It's really hard to get your hands on material. That's why probably most people have left the play on OP5. But I don't know, let me know, guys, and I hope you all have a nice day. Until next video.